Hi there, welcome to the Solution Focused Thinking Club tutorial. I'm John Bullock, owner and founding director, and today joining me is...
I'm Nick Bishop, a fellow director in the business. Hi everyone.
And today's tutorial is about generating motivation. Now, for me, this is one we get asked about quite a lot, isn't it? How do you have enough... People say to us, where do you get your energy from? How do you get all your energy for what you do? And it's very, very simple, really. If you enjoy what you're doing, you will find energy. What's it like how much energy have you got when you're about to do something you're really excited about?
Well, people say I've got unlimited energy, full stop.
That's very true.
But in actual fact, if it's something you're passionate about, you really want to do, you're just revved up, you want to do it, don't you, John?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we have topics, we have workshops, we have tutorials covering goals, obviously.
Yeah.
But of course, to be motivated, you've got to have goals as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to motivation, I just want to talk about the different types of motivation that get us to do things, because it's our motivation, it's our energy levels that will help us achieve something or not achieve something at the end of the day. So we split motivation down into two paths, if you like. The first path is what we call towards motivation. Now this is quite simple and straightforward. I am choosing to do this thing because there's a benefit for me. Okay? So I am choosing to go to work because I get paid, for argument's sake, okay? Or I am choosing to go for that run because I will feel better. Whatever the motivation is, there is an argument and there is a theory in the world that nobody really does anything for anybody other than themselves. So the argument is, if you give money to charity, it makes you feel good. I'm not sure I believe that, Nick. I think we both know a lot of quite selfless people.
It would be a very sad world we lived in as well, John.
Absolutely. But you can see the point of, sometimes we do things because there's a benefit for us.
But I think you mentioned going for a run, and ironically, going for a run, you feel better afterwards anyway, don't you?
Yes.
So often doing these things,
Yes.
towards, it gives you a benefit, and that is the feel-good factor.
Absolutely, yeah. So, if you hit a sales target, for argument's sake, or one of your KPIs, it makes you feel good, doesn't it? And there's quite a key point there. One of the ways of motivation is towards motivation. But this tutorial is also about generating motivation. And one of the best ways of generating motivation is celebrating when you do something very, very well. So when you have achieved a goal, rather than just ticking a box or having a cup of tea, which is a very British thing to do, celebrate it. Actually mark the fact that you've been successful. What it will do is it will create a success pathway in the brain, and it will generate you more energy, won't it?
It's a little bit like, obviously, I'm very involved in athletics, as you know, John, and I see people at the end of races, and they look up and they punch the sky. They're so proud of what they've achieved.
Yes.
The pain and suffering of the last hour,
Yes.
half hour, whatever,
Yes.
is soon forgotten.
Yes.
But it's made worthwhile by the celebrating success at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to generating motivation, the first type of motivation is there's a benefit for me. So if you have got a goal, and there's other tutorials, as you've said, on goal defining, so have a look at them if you choose to. But if you have got a goal, what is it that you need to do in order to motivate yourself? What's the benefit going to be of you achieving that goal, and then remind yourself of that benefit on a regular basis? That will really help you increase your motivation. Now we come to the other type of motivation. Now the other type of motivation is what we call away from motivation. Now this one's a little bit more tricky. So away from motivation is described this way. I am choosing to do this thing because the pain of not doing it is greater. Okay? So let me say that to you again. I am choosing to do this thing because the pain of not doing it is greater. Okay? Now, let's run an example, because that's quite a tricky one to get our head around, okay? Paying my mortgage. This is a great example. You could argue towards and away from motivation for my mortgage. Let me explain. The towards motivation for me to pay my mortgage is that at some point I will own my house, I have a roof over my head, and my children have a roof over their head. That's towards motivated, okay? But the away from motivation, excuse me, is if I don't pay my mortgage, the house gets taken away. Does that make sense? Now currently, the away from motivation is a bigger motivator for me to pay my mortgage than the towards motivator.
It's an interesting point you make here, John, because few people you see rushing at payday to the bank like this, or the building society, with a wad of pounds. There's my £300, please take it from me. It's not something that kind of motivates.
It's not,
really?
and I don't get really excited when I know the direct debit's about to go out of my account. However, the pain of not paying it is too great. When I get nearer the end of my mortgage, I might be quite happy to give the bank that money. So time plays a factor in motivation. The nearer you get to a goal, it might start out as an away from motivation or a pain motivation. For instance, this part of our job, and when we're out delivering, Nick, is very towards motivated. We love doing this, don't we?
Yes.
But when we have to sit in the office and update the database, it's not really the best, but we choose to do it so we can do this part of the job.
Absolutely right.
Yeah? So time plays a factor. Now, one of the biggest excuses, certainly in business, for things not getting done is I haven't had enough time, okay? However, time is an excuse we need to take out of the equation. I am directly linking this to motivation, because if you take responsibility for your motivation, you don't use time as an excuse. So, time, it doesn't run out. We get 86,400 seconds every day. Everybody gets the same amount of time. So imagine this scenario, Nick, okay? Somebody comes into work and they've got 10 jobs on their jobs list. Job number 3 is a job their boss has asked them to do. But for whatever reason, they've prioritised it as job number 3. They come into work and they start job number 1. Halfway through job number 1, somebody throws an hand grenade into their day. You know what I mean by that, Nick, don't you? Something goes off, maybe it's a customer complaint, something that needs dealing with, because the pain of not dealing with it is greater, okay? So you've done half a job and then you go and deal with the hand grenade. Now the hand grenade can take you the rest of the day, for argument's sake, okay, to deal with, all right? Certainly very British thing is, and we get to the end of the day, instead of reminding ourselves of what a good job we've done on dealing with the hand grenade, we just beat ourselves up for the other 9 things we haven't done for the day. But then your boss comes up to you and says, have you done that job yet? Now our normal response at that point would be, I haven't had the time, boss, because I've dealt with that. But that's not accurate. The accurate answer is, I haven't done it because I chose to do something else.
Yes.
Now, I don't know if a few people in the audience listening to this might want to go and try that with their boss. They might not get a good response. However, it's an accurate response.
Yes.
So actually, what you will find, that at the end of your day, the jobs that you've done are the jobs you wanted to do the most, but some of them are just away from motivated.
But the interesting thing, John, they do sometimes say that put a couple of things on your to-do list at the start of the day you can tick off quite quickly.
Yes.
Because then you get into a rhythm, you feel
And it
good.
will help motivation.
Tick 1, tick 2 on the roll.
Yeah.
And as we said, or as you said earlier on, the closer you get to achieving something, the more motivated you become.
Absolutely. So just look at those 2 different types of motivation. The next time you catch yourself saying, I've got to do this, if you change that sentence to, I'm choosing to do this, because that's accurate really with the time that you've got. There's not many things on this world that you can do that people make you do. It's normally a choice, and I know there'll be a few people listening to this thinking, well, there's things that my boss gets me to do and I don't want to do them. But you do choose to be in the job, so by proxy, you choose to do those things. If you're choosing to do those things, it's actually really quite empowering, Dick. Instead of saying I've run out of time or I've got to do it, change that to I'm choosing to do it, and I tell you what, it really helps you prioritise what you're going to be doing for the day, okay? So, to sum up motivation for you, and remember we're not going to use time as an excuse here, because motivation is a personal responsibility. Also, just before the learning points, motivation, certainly in a business, is an individual's responsibility. It's not the leader's responsibility to motivate everybody. There's a big misconception here, isn't there? That a leader should motivate everybody. No, that's not the case. An individual should motivate themselves. What a good leader will do is they will facilitate an environment where people can be motivated.
Yes.
There's a big difference between the two.
Because we all have different triggers and do things for different reasons, John.
Absolutely.
So you cannot, rely is the wrong word, you cannot expect someone to do that for you.
Absolutely.
It comes from here, John.
We've got to take it ourselves personally. So, increasing motivation, choose your motivation. What are the learning points of today's tutorial? Learning point number 1 is celebrate success when you do something well. It will help with your motivation next time, especially when times get tough.
Yeah.
It will help. So celebrate success, because that will help you increase your motivation. Learning point number 2, maybe sometimes you need to create a bit of pain to get you moving. In other words, is it away from motivated? what kind of little bit of pain do you need to do? For instance, I know if I haven't updated my database, as it's getting nearer the end of the month, my pain starts to increase because it needs to be done. So what's the pain that needs to get you moving sometimes if it's not towards motivation and you're going to use away from motivation? That's learning point number 2. And learning point number 3, remember, is it's up to you to motivate you, not up to anybody else.
Only I can.
Absolutely. And if you're not motivated, what are you going to do and take responsibility for? Now, there's a whole other tutorial on personal responsibility and choices that we can make. So if you're lacking in motivation in areas, I also suggest you watch that tutorial because you'll definitely get some benefit from it. But for now, those are your 3 learning points and the end of this tutorial. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your time, Nick.
Pleasure, John. Bye from me.
We'll see you again soon. Bye now.